Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's #1 advocate show, Timeshares, Solutions, or Surrender. I am Kimberly Calhoun, one of the co-founders of Pod TV, and I will be co-moderating with your host, Irene Parker, who has helped provide do-it-yourself solutions to people who have become a victim of the deceptive acts of timeshares. Everyone, help me welcome Irene Parker, who has helped solve a lot of these problems for so many victims. Today's topic is going to be debt relief issues that come with the timeshares, because so many people get into debt with these and they can't get out. Hi, Irene. I've missed you.
Oh, it was a long 3 weeks without you as host, but we really appreciated Mark filling in for you while you were gone. I'm really excited that we have more questions about what happens if I default on maintenance fees, what happens if I default on loans. So I'm thrilled to have 4 of our guests who are not seniors. And I'd want to start, though, by bringing your sister Kelly on board. And we just so appreciate, she is with Motivation Mortgage. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
How's everybody doing?
Yes, and we had Katie Holloway on our show before. And let's go ahead and bring Katie Holloway on our screen, Kim. And
good morning, Kelly. Katie.
Hi. Katie works for a title company, and Kelly works in mortgages in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Virginia. So if you need a home loan, conventional, FHA, whatever, you can call Kelly's company, and maybe we can put a banner up for that. And we really appreciate her being here. Now, I'm going to go ahead, Kim. I think it would be good to bring our other guests on screen, because I'd like them to hear and respond. An article was just published yesterday that is sending us through the roof. And I'd like for all of our guests to be able to listen to the statements as I read them and get their comment. So first we have Tracy, and Tracy is disputing Westgate Resorts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold. Everybody's been on the show before, and we've already talked about what happened. So I'm going to summarize that for each guest before they share with Kelly and all of us how this has so dramatically impacted their life. We also have fellow Westgate disputer, Andrew Ormesher, who is with in Utah, God's country, Utah. And Andrew served 9 years with the Air National Guard, and partly his decision not to serve 20 was because of a Westgate loan default, which is particularly harmful for the military. So finally, we have Rhonda, and Rhonda is disputing Holiday Inn Club Vacation. And Rhonda has she has, let me see if I can bring her on here. She has a top security clearance. So this is particularly devastating. Now, the comment, we're TARDA, Timeshare and Resort Developer Accountability, Inc., a 501c4. And the reason we formed TARDA is the timeshare industry, ARDA, the American Resort Development Association, made some comments in 2019. State Representative Shauna Bullock, back then, proposed a bill that timeshare buyers be allowed to have 24 hours to consider their purchase, because you're demanded to buy on the same day, a high interest rate loan that has little to no secondary market. And the comment made at the legislative session, the bill passed 100% in the House of Representatives. When it got to the Senate, the ARDA lobbyist, Mr. Isaacson, stated that it's not the state's responsibility to protect those who did not take the time to understand the product. Now, if we think about that, in the case of Westgate, the contract says you can rent, but there's nothing in the contract that I'm aware of that tells you all the fees and obstacles that make that unfeasible. No one would try to rent a timeshare while they're on vacation. So the contract rescission period did not help you. And then the former chairman of ARDA, there's ARDA and ARDA Rock purports to be the consumer arm. Mr. Nussbaum said timeshares have no resale value, but buyers don't mind that because they value the experience. Now, just yesterday, there was an article that was published called "The Millennial Timeshare Boom. Timeshares are back and better." The author is Alicia Richards, one of the admins of the Facebook group. Looked her up. She's a writer for hire for PR. And she made the statement in this article, quite simply, a timeshare has and holds its financial value. And that is probably the most inaccurate and harmful statement that could be made about timeshares. And what I want to do before we talk about Kelly is one of the admins, I've never heard from him before on my messenger. He stated, I run a Hilton Grand Vacations Club. Hilton was mentioned in the article, resale group, 14,000 members, and I moderate an owners group of 30,000 members. I've been an owner since 1997. I've never read a more misleading article on timeshare as the one written by Alicia Richards. It is poorly researched. Let me explain. She states, in comparison, a timeshare is an investment, unlike Airbnb and hotels, and holds its value. I enclosed the dollar deals currently available in the resale market from HG Hilton approved reseller. Very few maintenance fees are around $1,000. For example, you can see in the example, a week in Maui is almost double that. On top of that, Alicia failed to mention, of course, taxes, club fees. Currently, Hilton charges $299 per year. The booking fee, the cancellation charges to save unused points from one year to another, the loss of unused points, interest rates of 20% plus on loans. Usually they're 12 to 19.99, but if credit card, it's more. The almost $1 billion in bad debt Hilton has on default of these loans. She fails to mention the pressure on Florida timeshare resorts to fully fund their reserves, and if passed, a 30% increase in maintenance fees. So I'm hoping this admin will be a guest on our show before. So with that, Kelly, Katie's problem is that she bought a Silver Lake timeshare before Capital Resorts acquired Silver Lake. And one of the reasons we have guests from Capital Vacations, Holiday Inn, Westgate, is because we want to show that these complaints are industry-wide. So Katie, you were told that you could rent, and you work for a title company, so a default has jeopardized your credit. And so this is a wonderful reality show because these are fluid situations. So you were on like a couple months ago with Kelly, or at least a month ago. What has happened since then? what has happened since then? Where are you at with the dispute? And since you have brought up RESPA and all the ways that lending is different, no, not being underwritten, even though one of the recent purchases someone reached out about was $296,000 that costs as much as a house. So go ahead and let us know where you're at, and we'll let Kelly jump in and then explain in general credit repair. You know, if your credit is down 200 points, how likely is it going to be raised 100 points, and how long would that take? So Katie, let's start with you.
Sure. So I originally bought, I say bought, right? We say bought, but we're coerced into purchasing this agreement in May of 2021. And of course, it was immediately, you realize it's not what they say it is. There's so many, for one, violations that they what they say versus when you get home and you read through the contract. It's completely different than what the salesperson sold you. So where I'm at with the dispute and with trying to cancel is I immediately tried to cancel prior to the cancellation period. Of course, they talk you into just waiting until you can get onto the RCI website, and it's going to be great. It's going to be exactly how they said it was going to be. Once I was on the RCI website, even to this day, 3 years later, it's very difficult. Yes, there are properties available, but there's always fees. Everything costs way more than what you could spend actually going somewhere, not being locked into um, these properties. A lot of these properties have not been updated from the 90s, from the 80s. They're I could I could really just go on and on about the complaints. But so then I started trying to cancel whenever I went back for um, they called it like an owner's, I forgot the word for it, like
Update.
update, right? So then that's whenever I learned it was being acquired by Capital. It had not, it was in the works. So then I wanted to go in and talk to them about it, what was going to happen, because I was told that I could give it back or that I could sell it back and upgrade at any time I wanted to. So I was unhappy the entire time I had it, so I wanted to give it back. I did not want this. It was costing way too much money. I was at a 16.9% interest rate, which every payment I was making was just interest. So when I got there, they of course just want me to buy into $20,000. So they wouldn't let me cancel. So I've just, ever since then, it's now 3 years later. I've sent in letters. I did send in I stopped making payments, which is really the only way I was able.
When did you stop making payments? And we have a
Mhm.
chatter, Brad. I just want to say hello to him, and he's been a timeshare member for 30 years. But you purchased in 2021,
Mhm.
right? And then when did you stop making
So
payments?
I believe I made payments for almost a year, and then I stopped making payments um, because I wanted to get out. They wouldn't talk to me about getting out. They wouldn't talk to me about any sort of settlement. So I just stopped making payments in order to get someone to talk to me. And so that did occur, but then it hit my credit. It made me in default. So then I got, even to this day, you get declined for job opportunities. My credit in the financial world, it means everything. To get loans for cars, for houses, for just to change jobs just to do a lot of the work that I do within my job. We do a lot of banking and wires. It's real important to have good credit to be on the bank accounts.
How much did your credit drop?
It was reported to only one of the credit bureaus, which is the good news. Hopefully it stays that way and it doesn't hit all three. It dropped at least 100 points.
It
On
could drop
one.
up to 200. Was that
Mhm.
Experian or Equifax?
I believe it's Experian.
Experian. And Kelly,
Mhm.
can you tell us now, give us a general overview of what can be done. My example, if it's down 100 points, that's really not as bad as what you usually hear. It's usually 200 points. How long does it take to come up, and what can you do about it? What can she do?
It's very subjective on a time frame. In Katie's situation, her account is listed as a timeshare. And I think we're starting to see that the credit reporting agencies are getting so overwhelmed with the disputes that are attached to these accounts that the scoring is kind of not affecting it as bad as it probably has in the past. Now, I have seen some that come up as mortgages, and that could be very, very bad for your credit because that is going to show that you are in default of a true mortgage, and they think that is tied to a property. In Katie's situation, I think she kind of, I don't want to say she lucked out, but like best case scenario, it affected her score. But when I looked at it, I was like, Katie, stop paying it. Don't pay that. Do not pay that offer settlement that they gave you because it's going to reinstate that account. It's going to show the last activity date as recent. And it's already showing a year past, like you already got a year. So my suggestion was call Equifax or Experian and see if they'll mark it as a charge off. Well, they wouldn't do that, which it would have been ideal if they would have. So she's trying to get capital to change the status to that as a charge off because she's like, I'm not going to pay it. So go ahead and charge it off, charge the account off. And then it's pretty much going to go away after that.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do right now, since you mentioned that, I would like to bring Tracy and Andrew on stage. I think I can do that. Here is Tracy and here's Andrew. Okay, so Andrew's been on our show a couple of times. Tracy has too. They are both defaulting on Westgate Resorts. Andrew was sold a 4-bedroom for a young couple with a child. And when we're talking about it being a mortgage, Andrew was briefly a lead plaintiff in Steins versus Westgate. So he was active duty Air Force National Guard, and he was eliminated because they needed non-guard people. They needed actual Air Force people. But I attended the lower court where the judge Dalton in Orlando said, when I check out of a timeshare, I can't leave my toothpaste and underwear, meaning that it's not a residential stay. And this is important to the Military Lending Act. And one of the reasons we formed TARDA, nobody, we feel, should lose their military career because they bought a timeshare. And so the Westgate appealed, and Taya, our very first guest on this show, February 26th, went with me to Atlanta, and a former Westgate owner who has resolved his dispute by protesting outside of Westgate, he went with me, and Westgate lost at the appellate court. So what I am telling now, what that means is they have to go back to the lower court, as an attorney explained, and probably file a motion for class certification. But you can still take that 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ruling. Can you, Kelly, to say, look, here is an appellate court that said a timeshare loan is not a mortgage? Would that help people even if they're not in the military?
I think so. I think that the ones that are showing up as a mortgage, I mean, I've seen one that hasn't been paid since last January, and it hasn't shown like a foreclosure status, which to me is strange. Like if you're going to report it as a foreclosure or as a mortgage and they haven't made a payment since January, why isn't it in foreclosure? So I think a lot of this you might be able to do, like I referred Katie to do, is like dispute it. Like go on and say, this is not a mortgage. This is a timeshare, and have them reclassify it from mortgage to timeshare. And you would just do that by going to the 3 credit reporting agencies and seeing if they would change the status from mortgage to timeshare. They may or may not do it. I don't know, but that's where I would start.
But it would be, you think
And
it would be helpful to include the opinion from
Yes.
the appellate court?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Now, Tracy, when you I think are particularly were deceived, because a lot of people said, well, oh, they told me I could refinance. But with Tracy, they told her, before you make your first Westgate payment at 17%, go to your bank and make sure and tell them that the timeshare mortgage, the Westgate loan, is a mortgage just like a home loan. And that, of course, wasn't true. So Tracy, tell us, how long has it, when did you stop making payments? And, you know, you're also recovering some from medical procedures. So I know life hasn't been that timeshare happy for you recently. When did you stop making payments? And I have here that you purchased in in 2020, October 2023, and you had no loan before you upgraded, and you were also told that you could rent to offset costs, and and you're financed at 17%. So when did you stop making payments in 2023?
Yep, I purchased in October of 2023, but we had already been a part of Westgate. We were already what they considered a discovery member. I thought we were owners because we purchased in 2012, my husband and I, in Las Vegas. And when we went to Orlando for the first time in 2023, they, of course, caught us and said that they just wanted to discuss the benefits we were missing out on. And so we went to the presentation thinking we were going to, you know, get more for what we already purchased. And they told us we were not even owners, that we were actually wasting our money because we were paying to go there. And even though it was at a discounted rate, we were still paying to go there for the week, and we were missing out on a lot of benefits. So if we upgraded to be owners, then we could, reap all the benefits from it, which was renting it out. We could rent our weeks. We had bonus weeks that we could rent out. And if we went to our bank afterwards and got a mortgage for it, then we could just pay it off, and it would reduce the interest rate because it was at 17.9. And if we got a mortgage on it from our regular bank, we could reduce that to whatever the mortgage rate we're currently at, which was still, at the 8% level. And so we tried all of that. We came home. We tried. I was even going to just put it all on a credit card to reduce the payment and have one, but that didn't work out. And the bank told us that it was not recognized as a mortgage.
And when did you stop making payments?
I stopped making payments in May of this year, 2024.
Okay. So this appellate court ruling was just a couple months ago. So I think in your case and in Andrew's case, it would be particularly important to have that that opinion from the appellate court. That now, are you trying to buy a house, or
well, we tried to refinance, and sometime in July is when we hit it. It happened fairly soon. I've been watching the Westgate webpage, and a lot of people, it doesn't hit right away. They've stopped paying 8 months ago, 9 months ago, and it hasn't hit their credit yet. And ours, we stopped paying in May, and by July it already hit. It hit really hard, and we were trying to refinance our house and buy another property, a rental property, for in our hometown, and that affected us greatly. It's reported as a mortgage. I did tell the mortgage company that it was a timeshare, and they told me flat out, they said, well, we don't recognize the timeshare as a mortgage, but because of the defaulted payment, that's what they were making us struggle on. Like, you have to catch up this payment to make it current, or we can't move forward with the loan. Even though they wouldn't recognize, they said they won't recognize the timeshare as a mortgage. They said we'd have to catch up on it, otherwise we look like we're in default on all these payments, because it hit so hard. It hits pretty much monthly.
And how much did your score drop?
About 200 points, because my husband was at about 780 when we first started looking into this, and yesterday I checked his score and we're at like 570.
And how has this, is there any other way that this has impacted your physical and mental well-being?
Oh yeah, because I had surgery and I have a high deductible health plan. So like, even it hasn't really affected this specific situation. Hasn't really. I pretty much stopped paying for it, and I'm not going to move on with it. And I've decided, even with the mortgage company telling me, I said, I'm not giving Westgate another dime of my money just to catch up and start the whole default process over again, because they said I'm not going to be paying them in the future, so why pay them now? So I'm still slowly trying to wait out the storm, seeing if there's something else that can happen, something else that we can do before I give them even a cent. But yeah, it is very stressful, because it is affecting us, and I don't know for how long it's going to affect us. I don't know what it's going to do to us in the future. If 7 years down the road, it's still affecting us. Like, it affects us stressfully, mentally, mindfully, because we don't know how long it's going to affect us for. And when you foreclose on a home, it affects 90 days. It goes into foreclosure and it starts the process in 7 years. At least you have a time frame, like, this is going to end in 7 years. I could probably get back on my feet and do things again. And there are other things you can do to help that. Pay all your other bills on time, pay all your we have about $8,000 in medical bills now that we have to focus on, rather than trying to figure out how to give Westgate another payment and go on vacation, all that kind of stuff. So it does affect us in many different ways.
Well, and Kelly, how long is 7 years a good hallmark? And we had someone, Brad, has commented that he could let his maintenance fees go for a few years and catch up, but now Blue Green has threatened to place a lien on his timeshare. Some people mistake that for they're going to put a lien on your personal home, but all of our guests today are about loans. Now, I haven't heard, the worst I've heard on a drop of maintenance fees is maybe 38 points. So I explained this, and please, well, that's a good question. Why doesn't Timeshares have to adhere to lending and mortgage loan laws? There you have the lobbyists out there.
I have no clue.
That's a good
question. Every year I have to take continuing ed classes, and it will say specifically in every situation the ineligible properties for these laws, and it's timeshares, mobile home dealerships. I mean, they just don't adhere to the same lending. You can get a loan for, I don't even know how they place the loan amount on these timeshares, to be honest with you. It's a mystery, but they don't, within an hour, you have all this money tied up in what they consider to be real estate. And like you said, you don't go through underwriting. You don't have to meet certain criteria that you do when you get a mortgage loan. I'm having a hard time getting people approved for a $250,000 house that has to verify their whole life history with me. But they could go today and sit down at one of these presentations and be approved for a timeshare instantly.
Yep.
Well, and the way I explain it, and correct me if I'm not explaining it correctly, is if I bought a condo for say 400,000 and I defaulted on a $200,000 loan, my credit score, yes, it can go down for 200 points. If I don't pay the maintenance fees on that condo, that gets paid to an HOA. They are not a lender. And so they typically don't have relationships with credit reporting agencies, but if they turn it over to a collection agent, then they may report it to the credit agencies. But we've had a couple people that are terrified even to default on maintenance fees. How to answer Brad's question, how do you feel about whether it's a timeshare or a condo? Yes, they can put a lien on it and eventually foreclose, but from a credit reporting statement, what's the difference?
Are you asking me? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I mean, HOAs, like you said, they don't report to credit reporting agencies, but they can put a lien on whatever property it is that you own. They can't put a lien on a home that you own outside of the timeshare. Like they can't go to your primary residence and put a lien against you on there. But they can, again, like you said, they can go and they can turn this into a credit reporting collection agency, and then it will hit your credit like that. But it's not going to show up as a foreclosure. It'll show up as a collection account, like it would be if you didn't pay your credit card.
And to
that will
answer let me just interrupt you a minute so I don't forget, but there was a comment, timeshares are forever after death. Every state has a law that has laws that allows an heir to disclaim an inheritance within a certain period after the date of death. And so, that's not an accurate statement. But getting back to, if your credit score goes down 200 points, what is it realistically, and how long would it take to recover 100 of those 200 points? And I know everybody's different.
Yeah. Realistically, I would start taking steps with contacting the credit reporting agency. Experian is the one that they typically target. And I would say, hey, first step, let's get this out of a mortgage classification. Let's get it switched to a timeshare. And then that will kind of help your score. But realistically, the only thing that you could do is just kind of stop paying it and let it go into a charge off status. Once it's kind of off of a recent activity, you'll see your score go up more. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac looks at a charge off as a charge off. It looks at a collection as, if you have more than $2,000 in collections, you have to either pay them off or count it as a payment against you. If it's a charge off, you don't have to do anything. I think the trick to this is getting it out of a collection status, getting it changed from a mortgage to a timeshare, which I don't think it would be too hard to do if you could document it. And then, kind of letting it play its course. Unfortunately, that's about the only thing. Again, I do think that the credit reporting agencies are kind of acknowledging the fact that there's so many of these accounts that are going into default that I think the scoring is I think they're scoring gently on these accounts. And I've seen that in Katie's situation. Now, if we could just get hers reported as a charge off, it would be great.
Okay, well, when you work in home lending, how often do you see a timeshare debt on somebody's application?
Right. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. So, I mean, I've seen it throughout the years a lot. I haven't seen that many in default. I'm starting to see that a little bit more now than I did in the years past. People just can't afford to pay them. They get so caught up in the fees, and it seems like it gets higher. The amounts get higher and higher and higher on them. and they just can't afford to pay them anymore. So people are just starting to have to let them go. But I do see them again. You have to get all the documentation. You have to make sure the payments are on time. You have to get their maintenance fees, their any kind of fee associated with it. You have to include it into the debt ratio. Period.
And
No
someone
other way around it.
on Pod TV Movies asked, should everyone file a complaint with the Attorney General for consumer
Absolutely.
rights? Yeah,
Without
and
a
there,
doubt,
in my
100%.
opinion, there are pro-consumer attorney generals and there are pro-timeshare developer attorney generals, and little things like $90 billion a year flowing into Florida in tourist money, money talks. And so even if, for instance, the New York Attorney General and the Tennessee Attorney General, they tend to attempt to mediate a dispute. Whereas when I filed with the Florida Attorney General, and I was offered a refund, but I refused to sign the non-disclosure agreement in 2016. But the Florida Attorney General will just pass it on to the resort. The resort will forward back the contract where the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and they just go from there. Now, one of the pet peeves I have, and I wish we could get more advocacy for this, is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Brad is also asking if someone is elderly in a nursing home, they are still asking for the maintenance fees from the family.
Yep.
Some may be that cruel, but some will allow you out if you have a medical serious hardship like that. But anyway, getting back to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they are the federal agency that regulates banking and lending. You cannot file a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because they don't consider a timeshare company a lender. And they have a drop-down menu. Now you can tell your story, and there's a tab that says tell your story, and we really encourage people to do that because they are listening. Tracy is, oh, Rhonda is here. Rhonda, I thought I lost you. I was looking below here. So let's go ahead and have you weigh in, because you, like Andrew, had a top security clearance, and you have a top security clearance, and your situation when you were on our show before was just devastating. And a couple of the commonalities, again, you were told you would be able to rent, and they use fear tactics. So let's go ahead, and because I don't know if you have to get back to work or not. I know Katie's going to have to hop off, I think, soon to go back to work. And thank you for joining us today, Katie. And again, we express our condolences to your family, because you are Katie Holloway, married to the brother of Natalie Holloway that was murdered in Aruba. And to have to fight timeshare on top of recovering from a tragedy like that is just infuriating. So anyway, Rhonda, now you're with Holiday Inn Club Vacations, and they basically used the air scare with your heirs would be responsible. We've already covered that. So you have quite a hefty loan. You have a $75,000 loan, and you purchased in January of 2024, and you purchased, like Tracy, a product in 2022 that was paid in full. So I'm really interested to hear your experience, because you have talked to your employer about security clearance concerns. So for the people in the military and the veterans, it's common for veterans to maintain their security clearance after they leave service to work in military related fields. Where are you at? When did you stop paying? And you were financed at 16.5%.
Yes. So I have notified my employer that we are basically defaulting on this loan, because they do review my credit rating and my credit worthiness annually as a part of my job to be considered, quote, highly reliable as far as my clearance and the kind of work I do. And so I went ahead and notified them, even though it hasn't hit my credit yet. We have missed 2 payments is all so far. And so I'm sure that will be happening probably pretty soon, but wanted to make sure that we notified them. I don't know as of yet it's going to be an issue. I actually found out today that I have a follow-on meeting scheduled tomorrow. I don't know if it's that revelation that I told them about or not. I'll find out tomorrow.
Now, you cut out a little bit there. Did you say you have a meeting with Holiday Inn tomorrow?
No, it's with my employer. So I'm
Oh,
hoping,
with your employer.
yeah, I hope it's not regarding, that revelation that I revealed to them, but I will find out tomorrow on that note. But hopefully it won't be an issue because we feel like we're just throwing good money after bad, honestly, continuing to make the payment.
And I'd like to mention there's an FTC brochure on credit repair. And what's interesting in here, it says that you can ask the credit reporting agency to investigate your dispute. Well, not with Timeshare. And Holiday Inn was sued for not investigating disputes. And so was Diamond Resorts, Westgate Resorts, and the appellate court ruled in Holiday Inn's favor. The argument was, is the dispute over fact or law? So if there's a car accident and I say the light was yellow and you said it was green, we're fact witnesses. But the law, they don't have to investigate it. So I guess they're just talking about contract law. But again, the deck is so stacked against the consumer. We had on our show, Kim, you'll remember Norma in dispute with years and years with Worldmark and told she had to buy Wyndham points, which was not true. And she owes Wyndham $4,300 a month. So when we have seniors
Ridiculous.
that had a lifelong credit score, there's never been a bill we haven't paid. It can be devastating to go through the default process. But I always respond to when we want to go to senior elder abuse to say, I think it's worse for the younger people, for the millennials and the Gen X and the people that are trying to raise families and get a job and buy a house. It's just devastating. So when I hear this these statements made that quite simply a timeshare has and holds its financial value, and also we've had 5 different people on our show that are in law enforcement that have fallen for timeshare deception. And I didn't get a chance to ask Katie this, but in her complaint, she said that she did not receive 14 of 23 documents, and the rescission period would start at purchase or when you received all your documentation. And, so they're disputing that. Now, Kelly, also the FTC said it's illegal for a credit repair company to charge upfront money, to charge anything until after they've performed the services. But some seem to get away with that by charging like a monthly subscription. So is that true that I think there's a lot of complaints, and I think there's a lot of scam credit repair companies out there?
And I mean, I do credit repair on my borrowers if they need it. And I'm not allowed to charge them anything, even at closing. Like I can charge you for pulling your credit, and that is it. I can't charge for any services that I do to help bring up your credit score. So I don't know how I think it's like what you said, they get them in like on a subscription and they go in. But I have worked with several people that use these credit repair agencies, and I mean some of them work, but I can usually go in there and within 2 weeks if my borrowers get me everything and do everything that I asked them to do, I can get a credit score up myself. I would never suggest anybody to go through a credit repair agency. But I do want to circle back around real quick on these timeshares being listed as a mortgage. That really has me concerned. And because I think that's reporting fraudulently. And I think if Tracy and Andrew could go in and dispute the fact that this is not, like, just go in and do a true dispute on that account, that this is not a mortgage, this is a timeshare, they're going to have to change it, because you're right, they're not recognized as a mortgage. And I'm going to call the banking commissioner. I'm going to email him in my state today and say, hey, I'm running across some of these timeshares being listed as mortgages, but yet they're not supposed to be recognized as that. And I'm going to get some information from him to see what he suggests on that, because I think that will help a little bit in their credit scoring. And I just think that needs to be tackled quickly.
I want to add
definitely just go in there, dispute it. It doesn't hurt to dispute.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to add something to, the question I thought I heard is why are they getting away with charging before it's completed, or breaking some of these laws that apparently exist? And one is because people are desperate. They don't know any better. They don't know the laws. Two, the people scamming you, if they do know the laws, they know that you're not going to challenge them. And that's the biggest issue right there, is nobody is challenging the companies and the scammers in any of these situations, because it takes time and money, and that's something nobody has anymore. So that's the reason why people are getting away with this. And Kelly, thank you for taking on the task of writing somebody, because you and I both know that's a huge task right there, is to get answers. So thank you.
Well, and Andrew and I are going to go to the state representative and a senator that are on in Utah, the Veterans Affairs Committee. And then now we also had someone, Tom from Florida, that contacted his state representative, Tom Leake. And, just as uninformed and is this statement about timeshare holding its value, the response from Representative Leake was that, oh, it's okay in Florida because they amended the timeshare law so the sales agent cannot misrepresent the product. So, and so maybe he's not aware of the almighty oral representation clause, sometimes called the non-reliance clause, where everyone that walks in, that buys a timeshare, it's buried in 80 pages of fine print. I did not rely on representations to make my purchase, but that should be disclosed at or prior to the presentation. So I would like to ask our guests today to all reach out to the editor of My Courier Journal in Jacksonville, who made this statement. Now, Andrew, how long has it been since you've stopped payments? I don't think we got your complete story and got up to date at where you are right now with your credit report.
So in November or December of this year, it will be 3 years since Brooke and I stopped making payments. It's actually been almost to the day 3 years ago when we actually got onto this mess without realizing it, because we were sold it as, an investment and we could rent and all this, blah, blah, blah. And also with the potential to sell, which obviously it's interesting. Here's a little note. And on that note, with the fact, I forgot how it was said earlier. I think you were talking about it, Irene, or maybe it was Kelly. But when it comes to like a mortgage sort of situation, they were selling us one for like $75,000 at first. And then we said that's out of our budget. And then all of a sudden, just so conveniently, they were able to find one for like $47,000 or something like that. So they're not just selling them like, oh yeah, here it is, like a normal house. Like they're just selling it just to get it sold, to get money and get people trapped in these things. That's like the truth. I don't think it's so convenient that just at that moment, we're already about almost 2 hours in, that they had so conveniently had this one, oh, someone had just sold it and now it's up for grabs again. So they're lying. They know they're lying. And where we're at
Is yours
right now,
reporting? Is yours reporting as a mortgage?
I can't remember if it is. I know when my wife has been looking for housing, because we were trying to buy a house, and between the realtors, but then also we had to go to a property management, because we're renting right now, because we can't even get a mortgage because of this thorn. They were also hesitant. Even just renters were hesitant in approving us, and we had to get actual official documentation. And Irene helped us with it, with the whole thing going through the court. And like, hey, this is being looked at by attorneys. We've had attorneys look at this, and now it's in this case and all this court stuff. And so then they're like, okay, all right, well, there's work being done, because they were asking, are we making payments? Are we doing this? And so I don't remember if they specifically saw it listed as a mortgage or as a timeshare. I definitely need to do some research and
Yeah,
see if it's been categorized as a mortgage. But it's
definitely.
interesting.
I would check.
Yeah, it's just interesting how, I mean, it's already been said, but just to kind of recap everything, is they sold it to us again like we were owners, like it was our place. And we could use it however we wanted to. We had the 1 week, we had unlimited getaways, but after the 1 week that is already paid for the year through our monthly payments, we could use an additional weeks or however, again, unlimited. And just this whole thing is screaming scam, fraud. And it's just like again, these protection laws aren't covering us. And whoever, again, who has stated that, the states, they're not going to be touching or responsible for all this. Hell no, they're supposed to be responsible for this. They can't run a state with these companies that are doing this and harming citizens in said states. Like, they're doing a damn disservice. Like, I am kind of disgusted, like, to put it lightly, because I could keep going on, but like, the solutions, we need to go to people. We can say, hey, again, raise up with, like, finding solutions, not just this is happening and then, oh, we're just little peasants, basically. This will go away. It's like, no, we got to storm the house. We've got to shake some trees to get these people to fall out, their high horse, because they are doing more harm while they're filling their pocketbooks, because this is unacceptable.
And I want to just say, where I am disgusted with our government is that you served us. Okay. You gave your
10
time,
years, 9 years.
and 10 years, and the government's allowing a company to take all of that away from you.
Exactly.
Is despicable, because you fought for your country and they're not fighting for you, and the laws don't fight for you. My blood is boiling for you and everyone who has served the military that has come on our show. I am at this point beyond furious. And granted, you know what? I agree with David Walker that, we have to have some accountability, and everyone thinks, oh, everyone should know that timeshare is a scam to begin with. But I'm going to tell you something. When you sit in those meetings, they don't make that sales pitch. They convince you that it's real property, that it's yours, you can use it, or, whatever it is they're selling you. But like you said, they hold you hostage until you can't breathe to begin with. But I'm going to back out now because I'm a little too angry to talk. Well, because Irene, my feeling about the situation, and I'm going to let you guys find the solutions, and we got a few minutes to go.
Well, and we have two disclosures to make. One of them is we are not attorneys, and so we do not give legal advice and to check with an attorney. But we do have someone with us today that works in lending that can answer some of our questions for us. And the other disclaimer is there are honest salespeople out there. And there are people that have owned their Hilton and Westgate for years. But Kelly, I don't know, did we explain the Queen of Versailles to you since Andrew mentioned peasants? Kelly, can she hear us?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out.
Oh, okay. Did we explain the Queen of Versailles to you? The Queen of Versailles? Anyway,
No.
the Queen of Versailles is a Netflix. The owners of Westgate are Jackie and David Siegel. In Orlando, they built a 90,000 square foot home with 30 bathrooms and an ice skating rink. And it took Best Director at Sundance. And this past July, they opened the stage play. And, you know, statements I'm told in the Netflix, and when the housing market crashed, my children had to fly on commercial airlines. So if we compare that lifestyle with Andrew and Tracy and Rhonda and Katie, it was hard for me to pick just 4 people because we've heard from over 3,000. And there are thousands upon thousands of families that are going through this, and it's heartbreaking. So in closing, we've got about 5 minutes left. And so let's do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I like baby steps. So I'm going to, my homework is I'm going to send all of you the opinion from the appellate court that a timeshare loan is not a mortgage loan. And next week on our show, we have Ruben and we have Miriam. Miriam bought from the Manhattan Club, and Ruben bought from Flagstaff, which is Fantasy in New Jersey, Atlantic City. The New York Attorney General fined the Manhattan Club $6.5 million. That was like a parking ticket because they raked in $100 million, paid to a company that had no employees on the maintenance fees, and then Flagship Fantasy, they had to pay their owners $1 million, plus the attorneys were awarded $700,000. Both of those developers admitted wrongdoing. Now, even when you have a recording, and our agent lied to us, and here he is on a recording, I've seen the response from the resort where we will cancel your loan without admitting liability. How can you not be liable for the people that work for you? You know, I just, as a stockbroker, I would have never gotten away with that. So, and then step 2, Kelly, do you have any final advice on, besides challenging the mortgage?
I mean, baby steps when it comes to your credit. Andrew, I would love to try to get somebody hooked up with you because you should be able to get a VA loan because they typically don't look at a lot.
Right.
So I might be able to find somebody. Where are you located?
Cedar City.
Okay.
Utah.
Utah? Okay. I'll see if I can find somebody in that area. I think maybe a good retail lender would probably work with you on a VA loan because I've done VA loans with people who've been in default of regular mortgages before and got them done. So, I mean, there's something out there for you. Everybody else, please work as hard as you can. If it's listed as a mortgage, get that listed as a timeshare because it is not a mortgage. And that is reporting.
I have one question on that. If I was just pulling up my contract from when I was trying to refinance my house through nationwide lenders, and he said he agrees it's a scam, but it is indeed a true mortgage as real property because on the contract it does say and I just lost it. It does say, and maybe, everybody's contract might be a little bit different, but with Andrew being in Westgate, it says warranty deed and lien on real property. So is that why they can list it as a mortgage?
That's what I'm going to find out, because even though there's so many people listed on that deed,
Yep.
that one deed probably has a bunch of people listed
Yes.
on it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's what I want to find out, because everything that I've ever done in my continuing ed classes and getting licensed states that these timeshare, lending is not applicable to any of the laws, Like, it's just insane. So I want to get something from the, like, of course, the state attorney general's office. They can't really talk too much about lending as much as, like, maybe your state banking commissioner. Hey, how can they report this as a mortgage when it's not recognized anywhere as a mortgage? So I'm going to get some information on that, because I really think that if a lot of people can get those taken and swapped, then the time that it will take to get your score back up and just kind of let it charge off is going to be significant.
And we're going to have everybody on the show back in 3 months to see where we're at from today. I think we're almost out of time. It flew by today, it seemed.
So much fun, so much good information. I want to thank everyone, and the panelists, Kelly, Katie, Andrew, thank you for coming back, Rhonda, everyone, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week on Timeshares, Solution or Surrender. Remember, write your government about this issue. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.